Still on the third part, specific data to look for when analyzing major economies, and we are under the fundamental analysis educational series, what to take into consideration when trading the currency markets. As a trader, you must always have a technical setup before looking at trading a currency pair. However, besides the technical analysis setup, you should take into consideration the fundamental analysis, and this is why we are doing this project, in order to introduce you the elements to be taken into consideration when trading. Under the specific data to look for when analyzing major economies, capacity utilization rate out of Canada is one of the most interesting one, let's say, because it is designed for the Canadian economy. It is also to be taken into consideration for the United States economy, but not that important as other indicators for the US. However, it works very nice for Canada. Now, capacity utilization rate indicator is released by Statistics Canada, like the majority of the statistical data in Canada, and shows the percentage of available resources being utilized by manufacturers, builders, mines, oil extractors, and utilities. This one, while still being a second-tier indicator, is important as it represents a leading indicator of consumer inflation, and the explanation is quite simple for that. When nearing full capacity, usually producers increase prices. This is the natural thing to do, and producers do not differ in this matter. The most important things to take into consideration when looking at the capacity utilization rate indicator in Canada are the release date, quarterly, about 75 days after the quarter ends. Because of that, we are not going to have the 6-month worth of data analysis for this indicator. It doesn't make any sense to look at 6 different quarters, as things are changing quite fast in our economies nowadays. The release time is 12:30 GMT during the North American trading session. Again, this one is released by Statistics Canada, and it shows the percentage of available resourcing being utilized by manufacturers, builders, mines, oil extractors, and utilities. It's a leading indicator of consumer inflation. When producers are nearing full capacity, they respond by raising prices at the higher costs, and the higher costs, are usually passed on to the consumers. So again, released quarterly, 75 days after the quarter ends, and the release time is 12:30 GMT during the North American trading session. If the actual is bigger than the forecast, should be positive for the currency. So if you are buying calls, for example, and these calls are on, let's say, euro and Canadian dollar this time. So if you buy calls and the actual is higher than the forecast, will be viewed positive for the currency, and the currency, in this case the Canadian dollar, should move to the upside. Then the euro Canadian dollar should move to the downside. So if you buy calls, you would not be in the, let's say, on the right side of the trade, but you should buy puts, because such a release should be interpreted as positive for the currency, and hence the euro Canadian dollar should move to the downside. So in order for your option to be in the money by the expiry date, you need to buy puts, because price should go lower than the strike price, and therefore your option would expire in the money. Our next indicator out of Canada is being called manufacturing sales, and this one is a second-tier indicator as well, but an important one, as the Canadian economy is a manufacturing-based one, not necessarily a service-based one. Canadian and Australian economies were or are different than US, UK, and Eurozone economies. And this is one of the reasons we've choose to present them to you, not only because of their currency, but because of the factors that are influencing the economy. Raw materials, commodity prices, changes in the commodity world all affect these two economies. However, before moving forward to our next indicator in Canada, we should keep in mind that the capacity utilization rate is released quarterly, about 75 days after the quarter ends, and the release time is 12:30 GMT during the North American trading session. If the actual is bigger than the forecast, it's positive for currency, and if the actual is lower than the forecast, it should be viewed as negative for currency. Now stay tuned. Now moving on to the manufacturing sales, please.